Hello everyone. In the last class, we discussed about database users and database administrators. Now in this class, we'll be going to focus on structure of database system. So this structure of database is not only about the hardware or any software. It allows us to maintain the data in efficient way to to give the better result, to access the data properly, and to maintain the security and to allow accessing multiple users, right? So all these things happens when you arrange the data properly. That is about the structure of database. So this structure includes the several components to arrange it properly. The first one is a database management system. So where you create a data, where you can manipulate the data, where you can store the data in a database. Okay, so this software allow us to communicate with the database. It is a software. This software allow us to communicate with the database. Okay, so to like a storage space. So you software may be MySQL or Oracle or anything. Using this software, you can create or store or manipulate the data in a database. Okay, so that is the first point, database management system, which is very important component in the structure of the database system. And the next one is a query processor. Here you have used a software called as SQL example. Using SQL, um, you have created or manipulated the data, or you have written some query. Here the query is nothing but a question. Let us understand it. That question you have written in SQL. That is a one language. So here query processor is the mediator to communicate with the database. So okay, SQL query is converted into the lower level language. This query processor has the translator to convert that query into the low level instruction and communicate with the database. Okay, so it is like a mediator between the SQL and software and the database. So, what this query processor will do, it will check that question properly. Is there any mistake in that or not? Here, the question is nothing but the query. Check the syntax query means is there any mistakes, grammatical mistakes in a language? We'll check it properly, right? In the same way, that SQL query will be verified by the query processor. After verifying it, if there is no mistake, then it will be converted into the low level instruction. After converting it, it will find the best way to fetch the data from the database. Like, so here the database has data. So here the query processor will find the data from the database. So where it contains multiple data, so it has to find that best way to fetch that data from the database so that it will give the result to the user. So it will produce the result in a quick way, faster way. So to improve the performance, it will choose the best path to get fetch the data from the database and execute that query. Okay, so how a customer asked a customer went to the restaurant, ordered some food and requested that deliver the food fast. So what this hotel manager will do, they'll try to cook the food as soon as possible, use the best method to deliver the food fast way. Okay, so if they use all ingredients, they may take some time. Here they'll use the few ingredients, or they'll use some strategy to prepare the food in a quick way. Okay, so in the same way here, that query processor hotel manager will find out the best path to fetch the data from the database to improve the performance or to get the result. I hope you understand about the query processor. What does it do? It will take the query from the SQL and fetch the data from the database and give result to the user in the best way. Okay, that is about the query processor. Next, storage manager. What does it do? So here it is the responsible for managing or storing the data in the disk. From the disk, if you want to fetch it or if you want to store it, allocating memory, each and every process, each and every step of the managing the data storing the data will be under storage manager. This storage manager controls this managing the data. Like it has internally buffer manager, file manager, transaction manager, recovery manager, all these managers like assistants. Okay, so if you take an example, buffer manager, what does it do? How does it manages the memory? Like suppose you're having a study room in your home. Your study table is filled with some books, and you have a habit of reading, reading books. So your table study table is filled with so many books, and your shelf is also having some books. So you bought a new book, and there is no enough space to place in your table. What do you do now? You have to remove few books from your table and you will place it on the shelf. Okay, so in the same way, like, and you replace that book on the table. In the same way, here the buffer manager, what does it do? The data which is rarely using, you'll place it on the disk. Data which is mostly using or mostly fetching, that data will be placed on the RAM. Because from taking book from the shelf is takes time. Taking book from the table and reading it is easy, right? In the same way, you can fetch the data from the RAM easily, but it takes some time from the disk. How we are fetching the disk is nothing but the shelf. Your study table is nothing but the RAM or RAM. So here the buffer manages this memory, where to place if it is based on the type of data. Like file manager will place handles that files on the disk. Transaction managers ensures the correct transaction. Like we have discussed completely about this transaction management in a separate video. You can watch that video about this transaction management. It follows some ACID rules like atomicity, consistency, integrity, and durability rules, properties. According to that, it ensures that proper correct transaction. Next, recovery management. Like if you open a browse and you have searched so many websites and used so many websites, unfortunately your system is shut down. And after it turning on, you open the Chrome, it will ask us to restore. That is a backup recovery. Even it is turned off, you are able to retrieve the data, right? That is about the recovery management. Even the system failures or server failures, it has a recovery, like backup recovery. That all these things managed by the storage manager. I hope you understand about the storage manager. Managing the data is under storage manager. It is very important component. Next, transaction manager. So I already discussed. It ensures the correct transaction, like concurrency control, locking, deadlock, all these things managed by this transaction manager. Like concurrency control means, just I'll explain with one example. When two people are trying to book one ticket, they reach the railway station and they ask a booking counter person to book the ticket. What does book ticket? There is only one ticket left at that time. So is it possible to book one ticket to the two persons? No, right? So it is the comes under concurrency. This kind of situations will be controlled by this transaction manager in database. Like deadlock resolutions. If you take an example, like there is a narrow road. One second. There is a narrow road. When two vehicles are moving in that road, this person has to reach this place, this person has to reach this place. There is a one way. Either this person has to reach or this person has to come this place, then another person will move. But here the situation is, this person is under waiting state until this person, he is thinking that this person will come, and the same way this person also thinking that this person will come. For this person he is waiting. Both are in a waiting state, both are not moving. This person is not moving to this place, this person is not moving to this, both are in the waiting state. This kind of situation is called a deadlock. These kind of situations may occur in here also. So like how I explained with this real-time example, these kind of situations happen in this database. So to avoid this kind of conflicts or situations, we have a transaction management manager. All this will be ensures uh, maintained for the consistency and isolation. Next, catalog manager, like it is about data, is about data. If you take an example, your college, the data is consist of student details, college details, teacher details, each and everything. So uh, if the table contains the student details and name, roll number, if you find a roll number that is related to the student, if you find an employee ID that is related to the teacher or the employee, so you are based on the data, you are representing which type of data, relation between the data. You can find out, or else you can, like, if you take an example, like you have stored the roll number. Roll number is in a number format. You have stored the name. Name is in which format? String format. The data is about name. About, so we'll discuss with one example so that you can understand clearly when you are writing a SQL query. So that each column contains some names, row numbers, right? So the table names and their columns, all these things will be maintained by this catalog manager. So, and if user is a student or the teacher, which permissions will be given to the teacher for the old class student, permission to the student will be given to access that student details only based on some constraints or the rules. All these things will be maintained. Okay, based on the type of data, those things will be maintained. That is called as authentication and integrity manager. Also will be ensures that users access data. Okay, it follows some rules and maintains that integrity constraints. So, like based on the type of user, it will give the access. If student can access only student details, teacher can access all student details. So, such kind of authentication will be managed by the authorization and integrity manager. Next, database is it is not, it is about the data which you are storing in the database in the table format. Next, users, like end user, application users, database designer, database administrators. End user is nothing but we are using an application interface like an app, and we are just clicking on options whatever we need, and it is at the back end, that application is programmer is interacting with the database and giving result to us. So just we are using an app and we are getting the result. There is a back end developer called as an application developer who is interacting with the database to give result to us, and the database designer who is a mediator between the application programmer and the administrator to make sure that better performance to meet the client requirement. Database administrator, we can call him as an owner of the DBA. So this is a complete structure of the database system. I hope you understand that the main components of the structure of the database to maintain the data properly, to store the data and to access the data proper way, efficient way. Okay, so the main goal is to structure the database in a proper way, to store it properly and to fetch the data properly and maintain the security and giving access to multiple users simultaneously. So these are the things that we need to achieve when you arrange the database in a structure format. This structure includes the several components. One is the software and SQL, where you can create and manipulate the data, where you can interact with the database. Here, using database software called as SQL, you are writing a query and you are interacting with a database. And here, a query processor will convert that SQL into a lower instruction and interact with the database and give the best result to the user. Okay, that is a query processor. Next, the storage manager will be responsible, or this controls that how the data is actually being stored. Transaction manager ensures that avoiding the concurrency control, like mm, I already discussed with him, when multiple users are accessing the data simultaneously, such kind of concurrency will be handled by the transaction manager. Catalog managers, like it will give that the data is representing the which information. Information is about the data is called as a catalog manager. This will be handled, like, so authentication, like which who will can access the data. Based on the type of users you are giving access, that authentication will be managed. Database, actually the data that you want to store in the tabular format, where you want to store the disk or any file format. Next, who can access this data, or end user who is using a database through an application or an app. An application programmer who is interacting with the database and giving result to the end user. Database designer who is interacting with the client and application programmer to make it better, to give better performance. Administrator who is uh, responsible for everything to maintain, storing and managing the data. Okay, we can call them as owner of the data. So all these parts makes structure of the database system and gives the best result and stores the data efficiently. Okay, this structure allows the data, allows us to store, allows the DBMS, allows the database to store efficiently and fetch the data and give result. This is about the structure of database. I hope you understand about the structure. What are the components involved in this structure? Um, this is a complete diagram. User uses the write the query and the query process the query, and authentication verifies that query, and buffer manages the data and fetches the data, and if any situation occurs, the recovery manager will back up the data, like any system failures. All these things includes the structure of database. Database system is not about just database. It includes a hardware, software, users, many components. Okay, I hope you understand about the structure of database system. So if you understand it properly and if you like it, please do subscribe to my channel, uh, and give me some feedback in the comment sections, what I have to improve, what your expectations. Thank you. That's all for today.